Do not sign for it. If you can literally smell it before opening the box, don't sign for it. Hi, welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I'm not Kevin Pollak, I'm Samm Levine. Fooled you again. Kevin is, I believe, in my Garden State, New Jersey right now, near the Cherry Hill area. So if you're in the Philadelphia or southern New Jersey area, I don't know, say hello? Tell him we miss him?
Yeah, I think it was a private gig.
It was a private gig. Ignore what I said.
I know because he packed the three-piece suit. That means corporate gig.
Corporate gig.
Well, that means yeah.
And that leads me to Jamie Foxx. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Hi, guys.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm great.
Excellent. You've been holding down the fort while Kevin's...
yeah, for the 36 hours he's been gone. Yes.
Well, shit can go wrong fast in that house. You got a wild cat running around.
She's been mostly sleeping, as cats do.
Okay, terrific. I have not. So we were here last week with guest host Dana Gould, and I wanted to let him do his thing. So I didn't really get a chance to talk about the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you haven't seen the video, which Kevin posted on his Instagram page and possibly also his Twitter, and then I put on both Instagram and Twitter.
And Comedy Film Nerds also.
Oh, and Comedy Film Nerds, because Graham Elwood was in the room. So what happened was Jamie had the good sense to be recording during the very last out when Kevin and Graham Elwood and I were watching, and you can watch three grown men act like absolute children. With our excitement. And then I'm not ashamed at all to tell you I was overcome by emotion and cried man tears at the Cubs winning the World Series. And I don't know that I will ever achieve happiness like that again. So after today's show, which will be a close second, I'm going to walk into the Pacific.
It was a precarious moment because I knew that I wanted to record it, but at the same time, I didn't want to jinx you guys. So I didn't want to have it ready for the you know what I mean.
I know what
I didn't want to jinx you and have it ready to go, but I did, and it worked out well.
It worked. Yes. No, I'm not a big believer in the jinxes of that sort of thing.
In my family, they are.
Oh, all right.
My sister Jacqueline is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and she has all these stupid superstitions, you have to change your outfit in the middle of the game if they're losing.
Right. Well, she's a regular Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah, there you go.
Remember when she hosted some award show and changed between? All right. Anyway, I don't think I have anything else pressing. I'm very anxious to get to our guest. This has been, for me, a long time coming. So I wrote him a lovely little intro. Let's here we go. My guest today is a man who openly loves cold hard cash. When asked about what makes him happy, he replied, quote, "Nothing is more satisfying to me than sitting in a dank room, hunched over a single flickering candle like Ebenezer Scrooge, and watching my ledgers fill themselves with ink," end quote. I'm almost afraid to tell him that not only is this not a paying podcast, we don't even validate parking. Money matters aside, I'm exceedingly happy to talk with him today, as he's not just a friend, but an accomplished actor, writer, director, stand-up comedian, podcaster, author, and boring person. You may know him from his work on dozens of film and television shows, but to me, he'll always be the dummy who ignored my suggestion that he and his then-pregnant wife name their firstborn son, Whitey. Please welcome Michael Ian Black.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Michael. I'm so happy you're here. Exactly, I do know. You had time to kill in Los Angeles on a Sunday afternoon at long last.
Well, you asked, and I didn't have a good enough excuse.
That is why every woman has ever gone out with me. I'm convinced of it. They ran out of excuses or couldn't come up with one fast enough.
Yeah.
Excuses or not, you're still here. I'll take it.
And pleased to be here.
Let's see. You yourself are no stranger to the podcast. You host your own podcast.
I do.
Called How to Be Amazing. And let me ask you something about that. How do you, when you were asked about your podcast, I'm quoting now, when you were asked by another interviewer, how do you prepare for the people on your show? You gave a great answer, which I'm going to read to you now. You said, my producers assemble a biography which gives me an overview, and from there I conduct my own research. I read and listen to interviews. In the case of a performer, I watch things of theirs I might not be familiar with, just trying to get the basic facts about their life so I'm not asking tired questions about their biography or chronology, things I can drop into the conversation so listeners understand, and I'm not asking people to answer questions they've answered 1,000 times. I'm generally not asking questions if I already know the answer. All of that said, tell me about the state.
You are a true dick. What do you want to know?
Okay, well, take me back. Let's go pre-state.
You should tell people what the state is, because I'm assuming many of your viewers won't know.
It's possible that the viewers won't know, but let's go back before the state. Let's. All right. So, if I'm not mistaken, from the research, you and I have a similar history, which is we were both born in Chicago and lived there a brief time before relocating to the Garden State of New Jersey.
That's correct.
And so, how old were you when you moved to New Jersey?
4.
4. Okay, so pretty young. Pretty young. So, did you enjoy growing up in New Jersey?
No.
No. Were you close to Manhattan at all?
I was close enough to Manhattan that when I was a teenager, in my 15th year, I would take the train every weekend into New York City, and I would take acting classes.
Ooh, where did you take these classes?
At a theater called the Sanford Meisner Theater on 23rd and like 11th or 12th. Taught by a great man named Jack Romano, who was the artistic director of a camp I went to called Stage Door Manor.
Oh, you went to Stage Door Manor.
I did.
That's most impressive.
Yes,
I believe
with many
Natalie
distinguished alumni. Yes, Natalie Portman went.
Then Natalie Hirschlag.
I don't know. I didn't. She was there after I was
a little
there.
bit after you.
Yeah.
So that's so you knew from a fairly early age then that the theater.
Yes.
Acting was in your blood.
That's right. I knew from the age of 9 that I wanted to pursue a career in acting.
Wow, that's pretty bold. I mean, most 9-year-olds know, as Kevin always likes to put it, all the kids have "Hey, look at me" disease.
Right.
But at some point that
I didn't have that.
You didn't have that.
No, and I still don't have that. It wasn't "Hey, look at me." It was something else that I can't quite identify. I still don't particularly care to be looked upon, but
it's part of the job.
Part of the job.
Yeah.
Part of the job. I think you will find, Sam, and when I say you, I'm really speaking more to the people watching, who I'm told there are literally tens of people watching. I think you will find that many actors are shy. Many actors are introverts.
Sure. Yes.
Many actors don't want to be looked upon,
right?
The way one would assume we do.
Right, Robert De Niro, a perfect example. He doesn't want to talk. Nicholson doesn't need the.
Right, De Niro, Nicholson, me.
I've always, in that order, is how I go when people ask me to name my favorite actors.
That's right.
Who don't like to be looked upon.
The Holy Trinity.
Indeed.
That's us.
So, okay, so you're 9 years old. You know what you want. You get you get the family to agree to send you to a fancy summer camp for acting. And then, how old were you when you started going into the city for the courses?
15.
Okay, a little older. You can't be 9 years old and taking the train into the city. No,
that's not a good idea.
No.
I don't know that it was a good idea when I was 15 either. It's not the kind of thing I would necessarily. Well, I guess I would let my son do it now. But the city was in considerably worse shambles than it is in now.
That's true.
And when I think about the fact that my mom allowed me to do that, tip of the hat.
It was a different time.
It was.
It was a different time.
So I used to take the train in by myself from New Jersey, get off at Penn Station, and walk to acting class, do acting class for the day, eat some Chinese food, come on back.
Wow, sounds like a great day for a 15-year-old.
It was great.
You ever score any heroin?
No.
That's a shame.
In those days, it was crack.
Missed an opportunity. Oh, you're right. When it was the 80s, right? Yeah. Sorry, what's wrong with me? It was the designer drug. Not a designer drug at all. So you are 15 years old. You're taking the acting classes. Are you doing plays and stuff in school?
No. I did not do plays in school.
You're better than that.
It wasn't quite that, but that was part of it.
Okay.
Now, we didn't really have much by way of theater in my high school, and it was all musicals, and I didn't really just didn't really do that. I can't sing, so it didn't hold a lot of interest for me.
I know the feeling well.
Right.
Most young kids, when the only acting opportunity they get is with a camp or school production, and those are almost always musicals.
Right.
And if you hate musicals, like I do, which I think is where my hate of musicals comes from.
Jealousy and envy.
No, it's that all I wanted to do was act at that age,
Right.
and the only acting I was able to do was in these musicals, which then I also had to sing in.
Right.
And I'm not a great singer, so I always felt like the good acting that I might be doing was sullied by my mediocre to much below par singing.
Right. I felt like there's no point in me doing The Music Man if I'm not going to get a decent role because I can't sing.
Right.
So why am I going to waste my time with this?
I was just about to chime in with that. Yeah. It's like if you can't sing, like the lead roles always went to whoever can just sing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they weren't necessarily the best actor. It was like, oh, they have a voice, so we're going to give them, Adelaide and Guys and Dolls.
You can win an Oscar for that. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Jennifer Hudson. You have an Academy Award for being a great singer. God bless you. So, when did you pursue going pro?
Well, I guess it depends how you define that, because when I was at Stage Door Manor, I did get an agent, or a manager, I should say, who sent me out to do auditions for commercials and things like that, but I never booked anything.
Okay.
I never got the job.
Sure, but I'm sure you would agree with this, the auditioning is the work. When you book the role, for the most part, that's the fun part.
It certainly was work.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know, because I never booked them, whether or not that would have been fun for me.
Right. Well, you've booked work since then.
Since then,
it's
yes.
my understanding.
Yes, since then I have.
So.
But I was probably, 18 or 19 when I got my first professional job.
Yeah. But that was not 1994's NYPD Blue. Joey Diaz, is that?
Joey Diaz, yeah. No, no, I don't think so. I mean, I'd done some other stuff before that professionally.
Okay.
In the theater and such.
How lovely.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, I did not know that you had official representation.
I did.
Before enrolling in Tisch. So
it's not something that I brag about. You got to stay humble.
About anything.
You got to stay humble.
That's the thing about you. You don't brag about anything. Getting information out of you is like pulling fucking teeth.
So the interview is going well?
Oh, it's going great. See, I've known you, so I knew how to prepare for this with snark. That's what cuts through that outer layer of
snark and insults. That'll do it.
All right, so you were doing some theater and auditioning for commercials and what have you.
Yes.
And then, and so were you enrolled when you got to college? Had you done any
professional work?
Professional work yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I had not been paid to do my craft by the time I entered New York University. But New York University is where the State began, which at the time was known as the New Group, which was a sketch comedy club at New York University.
Aha!
And that is really where my professional life began.
I see. And so it's my understanding that Michael Showalter and David Wayne were members of this group.
Mm-hmm. And David Wayne wasn't originally, but joined subsequently.
Joined subsequently, and then you shortly thereafter?
No.
You initially?
The State formed, was put together by one of our members named Todd Hollebeck. He held auditions, a bunch of us auditioned my freshman year. Michael Showalter was one of the members, I was one of the members. The next year, David Wayne joined.
Well, and there you have it. Thanks so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
We'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
Great. Well, that's, so the State would then have a pretty fantastic timeline, which I had not read until I was prepping for this interview. I did not realize that how much stuff you guys did at NYU, I guess, for performance, I don't know how to phrase this.
Performances?
Yeah, how many performances you guys had actually done?
Well, actually very few before we had our own television show.
Okay.
We would put on 2 shows a year of live sketch comedy, and we would do maybe 3 or 4 performances of those shows. The rest of the time was spent writing and rehearsing. So, considering where we ended up, we really had very little experience. There was no way for us to, there was no other place for us to perform,
right,
other than for us to secure a theater somehow and put on a show. And that way we were a lot like the Little Rascals. There was no space, there was no UCB, there was no environment for sketch comedy. So we had to create it.
It occurred to me, I was confusing the stick with Stella just then, which does have a very lengthy history of many performances. If I'm not
You did do your research. You did great.
Thanks. I did okay. But then, so was Stella going on concurrently at any point with the state?
Yes. Stella is the 3-man comedy trio that evolved from the state.
Right.
That was Michael Showalter, David Wayne, and myself.
Right.
And Stella, like the state, began as a live show. The show itself was called Stella.
Right.
The trio was not called Stella. This trio was not called anything. We were just hosting a show called Stella.
Right.
And then eventually, we became Stella.
I see. And did the group Stella coexist alongside the state?
Yes.
And
we were doing live shows.
Right.
We were hosting live evenings of comedy while the state was in production and making things.
How did the other state members?
Oh, fine. I mean, it wasn't competitive.
Okay, good.
The state members could come and did come and perform at Stella. It was just a night of comedy.
That's great. Where did you guys have the shows?
At a place called Fez, which was underneath the Time Cafe on the corner of Lafayette and Great Jones in New York City, New York.
That's fantastic. Can I still see shows there?
You cannot.
Okay.
The Time Cafe is closed. The Fez is closed, replaced by something else.
That's unfortunate.
Well, that's New York, baby. That's New York.
You had to have the baby?
It's New York, baby.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So then, with so just to stick with the state, because that is obviously where I first came.
It's not obvious. It's not obvious at all.
It's obvious where I came to know you. Anyone who knows me, it's obvious to them that the first time I set eyes on your Michael Ian Blacks was on the state. So the state. You guys were hired to do a segment for It's Your Show?
God, you really did not do your research at all.
Shame on you.
We were hired, yes, by MTV.
By MTV?
Yes. To do segments for a show.
Called?
Yes. You wrote it, you watch it.
You wrote it, you watch it. I screwed up the name. But I could have referenced down.
Yeah, just look at it.
I was trying to
just
keep
look
eye
at
contact.
That's not important. It's more important to get facts. You could say, you got your first break working on a show called You Wrote It, You Watch It, hosted by Jon Stewart. And I would say, yes, that's absolutely correct. Instead, you made an asshole out of yourself.
Your podcast, How to Be Amazing, is audio only.
Great. Sam, that was great.
Okay. You have the benefit of not having to worry about the cameras and the eye contact and the intimacy.
But you understand, when people have a normal conversation, a lot of times they will look down, they will look off, they will look at each other. But what's key, I think, as the host of an audio-only podcast, great, is to, first and foremost, get your facts in order so that your guest doesn't go, you didn't do your research.
I'm sorry. I'll check the tape on that. Thank you.
You Wrote It, You Watch It.
You Wrote It, You Watch It was the name of the show. So the state was hired to do segments.
That's right.
And so out of those, the success of those segments.
Out of the strength of those segments, we were given our own television show.
Which was a sketch comedy show that ran on MTV.
Yes.
If the internet is to be believed, it ran from 1993 to 2009. That is
correct.
How it reads on IMDb. I'm sure you were aware of that.
I didn't know that.
Because
1993 to 2009?
That's correct. That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Because what happened was, so it ran for, was it 2 seasons? 3 seasons?
Well, seasons, cable seasons are different than network seasons. It ran for 4 cycles of television, a total of about 30-something, 40 episodes. I don't know.
Right. I think the last one aired in 1995.
Probably.
So 93 to 95, and then in 2009,
yes,
MTV aired the unaired Stella pilot.
What?
This is what the internet told me.
I don't know.
And so on the timeline on IMDb, it says 1993-2009.
Could be.
You would think that would be its own entry.
I would think I would know if MTV had been airing it all this time.
They're no Comedy Central. They don't air canceled shows. Huh? Come on.
No, I love it.
So then that's great. So you guys have done it. You had your sketch group that started it in college.
That's right.
Bunch of knuckleheads.
Yep.
And you made it to the big time. You got your own show on MTV.
We sure did.
I'm so proud of you. I really am.
Yeah. It's a great question.
It is a great question.
I'm so proud of you, I really am. Please respond.
Please respond to how proud I am.
I'm delighted.
So my question is, did you feel like you had reached some measure of success, since you, certainly more so than, to my knowledge, any of the other members, had been actively pursuing acting in the arts professionally for many years prior to that?
Well, yes, I certainly felt like I had achieved some measure of success, but it didn't feel like very much, and it didn't feel like I had really done anything. I wasn't satisfied in any way.
But really, no satisfaction. Well, wait a minute.
I was in my early 20s and was horribly depressed most of the time, as I think a lot of people in their early 20s are.
Sure.
And so I wasn't particularly enjoying any success that I may have had.
Follow-up question. Have you ever felt that with any job? Yeah, see, that's...
No, have you?
Sure.
Like what?
Well, Inglourious Bastards, shooting that was one of the high points of my life.
But what's the feeling? The feeling is like, I've arrived. Is that the feeling?
No, the feeling was this is the kind of job I had strived for.
Well, sure, I've had that. Well, I have that almost daily.
Oh.
Where I'm on a set and I will acknowledge how fortunate I feel to be able to pursue the career that I wanted to pursue. But that is a separate feeling from, and therefore I've arrived or I've succeeded in any way.
I see. Well, a measure of success, I guess, is
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you felt some measure of success.
Sure, yeah.
So the show was fun. I believe it's out on DVD and probably
you can buy it on DVD. Yes, you
VOD.
can. Sure.
So if the younger viewers watching are at all interested in what many comedians from my generation and even a couple generations younger often cite as one of the inspirations for why they wanted to do comedy or be in show business, The State was a wonderfully funny show.
Thank you.
And I hope that you guys all turned out okay.
We did.
I know you.
I'm in touch with some of them, and they turned out okay.
You're more than in touch with some of them. What you guys have managed to do over the previous 20-some-odd years since the show went off the air.
Subsequent, not previous.
Excuse me. You're absolutely right. The subsequent years since the show went off the air, the previous 20 years to today.
Yes.
You son of a bitch. Do you do this to your guests on your show? Of course not.
No.
Of course
I'm
not.
a gracious host.
But am I not gracious? Did I not thank you and offer you?
No, you're gracious. I'm also gracious.
All right.
I'm a gracious host, but I'm a dickhead of a subject to interview.
It's true. And I knew this coming in, and yet I'm so excited you're here. Can I offer you some more Diet Coke?
Maybe later.
Okay, I understand. So in the subsequent years
Yes.
after that, you and the members of the state have, in various iterations, worked together.
Yes.
Pretty consistently.
That's right.
Which is quite rare, as I'm sure you know.
Well, it's rare in the sense that what's rare is that all the members of a comedy troupe continue to work at all in show business. That's rare.
That's part of the rarity, sure.
But in terms of like having a comedic posse, that's not rare. I mean, a lot of people in comedy and in other parts of the business do work together a lot because you share a lot of taste.
Yes, certainly. But I mean, in the case of, say, Broken Lizard, they are a distinct comedy troupe that almost exclusively works together.
That's right.
Whereas in this, you had certain members of the state go on to do a project over here, other members would go on to do a project over there, a different group, and there's a lot of overlap between the members, which I think goes to show, as I'm sure you can agree, over the years, especially if you meet people in your early 20s, late teens, you find that you've grown apart as you age, and maybe you don't enjoy spending as much time. Maybe your senses of humor don't match up as well as they used to.
Right.
But with this group, you've all gotten smarter and funnier, in my opinion, and I think it's tremendous how much overlap there's been.
And I think I speak for everybody when I say, in the state, not in the world, when I say it is one of the great joys in my life, and I think in all of theirs, not only that we are all still doing it, but that we all still work together in different iterations, support each other, and I think we all feel a sense of personal pride when somebody's project does well. And everybody's had projects that have done well, and everybody's had projects that have not done well.
Sure.
And it feels really great to be a part of that, and to feel like the work that we did then continues in some form in the work that we do now. Which, for example, Wet Hot American Summer, of which you are a part, is a direct outgrowth of the state, features many people from the state, and that has also been just a great world to live in.
Absolutely, and since you mentioned it, and we do actually like to jump around on this show, can we talk for a little bit about Wet Hot American Summer?
You're the host. You don't need to ask permission.
I just want to make sure that you're okay with it.
We can talk about whatever you want. I said before we started, whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, great! That's fantastic.
Whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about.
So Wet Hot American Summer. So that was a script.
Yes.
That was written exclusively by
David Wayne and Michael
Showalter. They did that on their own, and then presented it to the group?
They did that while some of us were making Viva Variety, which started after the state. So they started writing together as a writing team in that time period. Wet Hot American Summer was the outgrowth of that. And then in 2000, they had the opportunity to make it. And asked me to be a part of it, and I was thrilled that they asked.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
That was fantastic. Also fantastic was what you just briefly mentioned in their Viva Variety, another sketch show that ran on Comedy Central.
That's right.
Which I was a big fan of, and I learned from my brother Max just before this interview began that he apparently had missed the state and saw you for the first time on Viva Variety and thought that you were in fact an Italian person.
Which is funny because, Viva Variety, the premise of it's a fake European variety show that created by 4 people from the state, or 3 people from the state. 4 people from the state. Who cares? And my character was the sidekick, whose name was Johnny Blue Jeans, and spoke with an accent, which never occurred to me was Italian in any way, shape, or form.
Nor did it occur to me.
Eastern European was sort of where I was thinking. It didn't matter. It was never defined. It was always just European.
Right.
European.
Right.
Was how it was defined.
Yes.
But Italian, no.
No. All right. Well, I hope you're watching, Max. You blew it. This was your one chance to interact with Michael, and I'm really sorry about that. So, Wet Hot American Summer. You get asked by David and Michael to take a role in the film, and I tried to get a role in the film, but was unsuccessful because I lived on the West Coast, and they were hiring mostly East Coast actors, and I've never really gotten a firm answer from David.
You didn't get the part.
I didn't get the part. It happens. I guess I don't need a firm answer.
No,
it
you didn't
happens.
get the part. That's what happens.
But you shot on location in what was a functioning summer camp.
Yes.
Not during summer camp season.
Pre-summer camp season, and I think like March, April.
So
we were shooting.
It was awfully cold there.
Cold and rainy, yes.
Cold and rainy. How long did you guys shoot?
Probably about a month.
Okay.
A very short shoot by movie standards. very low budget by movie standards, and it came out and performed terribly by movie standards.
But also, if memory serves, it had the distinct bad luck of premiering about a week before 9/11?
Well, I think a week before would have been fine. I think it premiered either that week or the week after. Maybe it was the week before.
Well, I have a ticket stub that says September 3rd.
So I guess you're right. Okay. So you went to go see it?
I did, because I wound up voicing a character.
Oh, that's right.
But this is not about me, so I don't really need to go down that
Feels
road.
like you're making it about you.
No, I was just letting you know that that's one of the reasons I went to go see it as soon as I could.
Got it.
To see if my voice was still in the movie, and lo and behold, it was.
Yes, it was.
I was pleased about that.
Sure.
But you and I had actually met before I did the voicing of that character. You and I worked together on a show called Ed.
That's right.
Which was in the year 2000.
Yes.
So this was, I'm guessing, right after?
Probably right after we shot it.
Okay. It was right after you shot the feature.
Yeah.
After you shot.
Yes, because my hair was still long from that, and that's why my hair was long for that TV show Ed.
Okay. Well, I don't want to stray too far off topic. I did want to keep talking about Wet Hot American Summer because
you were in it.
No, because it is a cult classic.
Yes, it is.
As the kids call it. And so it did not perform well, as we both know, at the box office. And then it wasn't, I think, until it came out on DVD about a year or so after the fact that that it started to gain that kind of Office Space level traction of, hey, have you ever seen this movie? And then the DVDs get shared. And
that's right.
And so were you feeling any of that, how the movie was becoming more and more well known?
Yeah, I think we all kind of sensed it over the ensuing years that people were doing like Rocky Horror type screenings at midnight for Wet Hot, and people would dress up and there would be Halloween costumes, and you sort of got the sense that there was a lot of support growing for it.
Wow.
But what I've learned over the years, and I'm sure you have learned, being a part of a cult classic yourself, Freaks and Geeks, is that the insular world in which you live by definition, because you are you, people are going to say to you, oh, I love that thing you do, and so you may get a false sense of the number of people who actually love that thing that you were in, that really most people have never heard of. And that is true for Wet Hot American Summer, certainly. That although, yes, it did find its audience in subsequent years, I have no illusions about the actual popularity of the film. It's a small but devoted number of people who love it and appreciate it, and have since followed it onto the television version on Netflix.
Yeah, that was no small feat. That
No.
some 14 years later, it wound up having a prequel series version. Right. That's not something to be overlooked.
And I don't overlook it.
Well, good. I don't want you to overlook it.
I'm thrilled that has happened, and
how many years of discussions and threats before that happened?
Well, there were many years of discussions that something would happen with Wet Hot before something actually did happen. And as I'm sure you have also learned over the years, you don't believe anything.
That's correct.
Until the check clears.
Until the check clears, that's what I say. On being on set, I've learned that doesn't mean anything either.
Nope.
I've been on sets and it doesn't happen.
Yep.
I've been on sets and sent home.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I've been there.
So yes, until the check clears, it's not real. And even then, until I've seen the film in a theater with paying customers and my name appears in the credits, even then, I'm still dubious.
Yeah, that's correct. That is the correct approach to all things show business.
I thought you would see it that way. Well, we can come back to Wet Hot because that is how I was able to lock you down for this interview. Is you were back here in Los Angeles shooting the newest version, which is another season. But we'll come back to that. I don't want to, because there's really not much to say. We can't really discuss. You signed an NDA, right?
I did.
Yeah, I had to as well. So I can't really. I don't think we're either allowed to.
Actually, I don't know. Did you sign a non-disclosure agreement about Wet Hot?
I feel like I did.
Oh, I don't know if I did or I didn't, but I know I just know tactfully one doesn't reveal.
Of course not.
Too much.
No.
Or anything.
Right. Well, then I guess we don't have to come back to it. We're shooting that right now, and it's been a barrel of laughs.
Yes, it's
and
been great.
It was, as with the first Wet Hot, when I was sent that script and read that in May of 2000, I often cite that as one of the funniest scripts I've ever read. And that is certainly how I feel about all of the scripts for the upcoming season of this Wet Hot series.
And this is the first time that I participated in the writing process of Wet Hot. I worked for 2 weeks in the very beginning, and it was great fun.
Oh, well, that's probably why I enjoyed the script so much.
Well, that's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that. If you are.
There's a group of very talented writers working on it.
Okay.
Including Michael Showalter and David Wayne.
Well. But let's get back to Ed, because now we're back towards closer to post-State, post-Viva Variety. You've shot the film, and now you have landed the dream job.
Network television show.
Second banana.
Fifth banana.
Fifth. All right. I don't know if I'd see it that way, but banana.
A banana.
A banana. On a network television show that has gone to series.
Yep.
On your own coast, in your own home state.
That's right.
That's pretty exciting.
It was great.
Right?
It was great.
So was that just a standard audition?
That was a standard audition, network test, get the gig.
Get the gig.
And it was a great job. It ran for 3.5 years on the National Broadcasting Corporation, and I have nothing bad to say about it.
No, especially because it's where we first met.
That's right.
And I think that's probably your fondest memory.
It is my fondest.
Of
you
that series.
You guested.
I did. I guested twice, although I only interacted with you on my second episode. And I'm just going to tell you quickly an old story that I bet you do not recall. So you and I had quite a bit of downtime in between scenes and setups, and we were both fans of poker, and I believe we both remain fans of poker. And so you asked me what I was doing. I was just kind of moping around probably. You said, "What are you doing?" I said, because they had me wearing those bowling shoes, and they didn't want me walking around on the concrete with them. And so you said, "Well, here, come into my trailer, so you don't have to walk around." And so we're sitting there, and we discussed poker. And I said, "Well, let's play." And you said, "Well, we don't have chips or anything to wager." And I said, "We'll both start with 1,000 fictional chips, and let's play and see if we can keep track." And so you and I sat in your trailer. I believe it was raining, and played 7-card stud for fictional chips.
Right.
And we somehow were playing No Limit, and I lost all of my chips to you on the first hand.
Did we have cards?
We had cards.
Okay,
that we did have.
Because I have also played Invisible Texas Hold'em, at least, where you think to yourself what cards you have,
right,
and then you deal out invisible cards, and you say what they are, and then you act accordingly.
Yeah, that we should do that sometime.
Not now.
If you think the audience would be interested in that.
I can't imagine they would be.
No, I can't imagine that either. But the 7-card stud, I remember thinking years later about that, about how dumb that must have seemed to you. Oh no?
Oh no.
Oh, all right.
No, you're describing a perfect afternoon to me.
Oh, terrific.
In between scenes where it's raining, and I'm in my trailer, hanging out with somebody, playing poker.
Yeah.
Great.
I love that. I'm glad that qualifies as poker.
Oh, that qualifies, sure.
Okay, terrific. And actually, you and I hit it off well enough on the show that I think a week later I was attending the Friars Club roast of Rob Reiner, and if I'm not mistaken, I brought you as my +1.
Is that right?
It is, and you wound up sitting near a friend of the show, friend of ours, Josh Charles. And the only reason I mention that at all is because that was the very night I met one Kevin Elliott Pollock. And it all comes back to Kevin Pollock. Which, let's be honest, it is the Kevin Pollock Chat Show. It has to. So it ran for 3.5 years, and it had... Oh, here's my question. So the show itself shot in a former bowling alley. It was about a bowling alley lawyer. in Stuckyville, New Jersey.
Stuckyville, Ohio.
Stuckyville, Ohio.
Shot in New Jersey.
Shot in New Jersey. Sorry, apologies for the confusion there. That was not on my notes. That was off of memory there.
And I didn't berate you for that.
I appreciate it. I remember in the 2 weeks or however long I shot, at least 3 times a day, in spite of the dozens of signs posted outside of the bowling alley that said closed, not a real bowling alley, at least 3 times a day someone would walk in the front door, bowling ball in hand.
Wanting to bowl.
Hey, are you guys open?
Right.
Did that happen every day? Or just
probably. It probably happened a lot.
Okay.
I mean, it looked like a bowling alley.
It did.
It was a bowling alley at one point. And was still a working bowling alley. It's just that we were shooting a television show there and had ripped up half of the lanes.
Right.
So I can understand why somebody would think, I've bowled here all my life. It still looks like a bowling alley.
Right.
Damn it, I'm going to bowl here again. And then only to be told, no, you're not.
I guess I don't have as much sympathy for them. There were literally 24 signs outside that said, this is not a bowling alley.
I don't know what to tell you.
That's all right. I think I judge people more harshly than you, which is shocking to me.
I really don't judge people very harshly at all.
All right. You have seen your Twitter, right?
Yes, and I am not nearly as vituperative as I might be on Twitter.
All right, NYU, vituperative. Okay, moving right along. Since you are a man who does love the English language, are you all right?
I'm itching.
Yeah, okay.
I'm scratching my itch.
I understand. A man who does so love the English language, it is no small surprise that you are also a stand-up comedian and a multi-time published author.
Yes.
So let's talk about the stand-up first.
All right.
You have 2 comedy albums and a special...
3.
3 comedy albums.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
They are called, in order, I Am a Wonderful Man, Very Famous, and Noted Expert.
Noted Expert.
Noted Expert.
Noted Expert is unavailable for purchase.
No, you can purchase it.
On...
I don't know.
All right, well, it's not on Amazon. I know because
is it not?
I own all of your Amazon-related items.
Well, that's possible. I don't know.
That's all right. It's not important. So 3 comedy albums.
Yeah.
A special.
2 specials.
2 specials.
Noted Expert is also a special. It's a special, and they released it as an album.
Oh. So where did the stand-up start?
Well, it really started with Stella, because Stella was first and foremost a night of stand-up comedy, even though I didn't really do stand-up comedy in the way that we think of stand-up comedy.
Right.
But I was asked to do these VH1 shows, I Love the Etceteras, and as a result of those, I started getting invitations to do college shows. And had always admired stand-up comedy and thought I'd like to pursue stand-up comedy. This gave me an opportunity to start doing that, and so I did.
Aha. And when you started doing it at first, did you have an end goal?
No, just to get good at stand-up.
Just to get good at stand-up. Well, that's fantastic. And you obviously got quite good at it because you wound up with 3 albums and 2 specials.
Well, I think I'm pretty good at it, but I haven't really broken through in any way as a stand-up. I mean, nobody thinks of me in those terms.
Well, I think that's only because you didn't maybe initially make your mark as a stand-up.
Probably.
Now, you describe your stand-up comedy as visual.
I do?
Yes.
Okay.
Not Carrot Top visual,
right.
But visual. That is a quote.
Okay.
I've never had the pleasure of seeing you live do stand-up.
Oh, great. Well, I'd love to. No, I'd love. I mean, yeah, let's do it.
We got a hot mic for him? I guess my question is, what is visual about your act?
Well, I don't remember the context of me saying that, and it is visual to a certain extent, but it tends to be more sort of story-based, and I try to incorporate a physicality into the work because I feel like that adds just another layer and dimension to it. So there can be some physical and visual elements to it in terms of how I tell the story.
That is wonderful.
Yes.
Do you have any upcoming dates?
No.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go out on the road spring of 2017 with potentially a very special guest, but I don't want to say who.
I'm not available in case.
Oh, no. It definitely was not going to be you.
Definitely?
Yeah.
We'll
do you do stand-up?
I do, not with any regularity or success.
Right, you were doing stand-up when I first met you years and years ago.
When we first met, I was doing it with much regularity.
And no success.
And very little success.
Now, just less regularity, the same level of success.
The same level of success, less regularity. Really, I just took the burden off myself. I was like, I'm not getting anywhere with this. Why not make it easier on myself?
Yeah. I know the feeling, and yet I keep persisting.
You do keep persisting. Something you keep persisting at is writing. And that, this is, dare I say, one of my favorite things about you.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you.
Because I have read all of your books for grown-ups. I have not read any of your children's books.
Right.
You have 4, count them, 4 books for adults. I can name them for you. My Custom Van, America You Sexy Bitch, You're Not Doing It Right, and Navel Gazing.
That's correct, yes.
Which one did you forget about?
I just didn't know how many there were.
Oh, okay.
But that's right.
And then you have 7 children's books.
Could be.
It is accurate, as of the internet yesterday.
Well, there's some that are coming out that you wouldn't know about.
Okay, fair enough. So your books for grown-ups, your first one that I read, My Custom Van, is a collection of essays,
right,
which are so wonderfully funny, and I think books of essays are the greatest thing a person can write, because it does not require more than a few minutes of attention at a time. Toilet time, exactly right. You can get through an essay a visit, and you'll, if you're like me, you'll plow through that book in 2.5, 3 days.
You're that regular.
You're Jewish.
I go through different cycles.
I've been in a bad cycle for about 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, not that long. I went to Mexico in 2002.
Oh. Never
been the same. I wish that were a bit. It's not a bit.
Wow.
Stay out of Mexico, Christina. So your books for grown-ups are wonderful.
Thanks.
If people have not picked them up, all of your works are available for download on Amazon.
Or for purchase. You don't have to download them. You can actually get hard copies of them.
You can. And if that is your thing, by all means get the hard copies. I was just letting people know, since we live in a world of instant gratification.
Yes, you can get them instantaneously.
You can be reading his books before this interview is even done, if you so desire, and I hope that you do.
Thank you.
But your children's books, this is fascinating to me.
Why?
Because your desire to write a children's book, at least based on the interviews that I have read, came out of there were 2 reasons. Reason 1 was you had been raising 2 children of your own and reading children's books to them with regularity, and thought to yourself, well, come on, I could write something that is at least as bad, if not better, than the average crap I'm reading my kids.
That's right.
And then the second reason, of course, was
money.
Which I believe are the 2 most noble reasons to become an author. I believe I could do at least as bad, if not better than this, and I like money.
Right.
So good for you.
And hence an opportunity.
Hence an opportunity.
Right.
And so the very first book, how did was that something that you pitched?
The very first book was initially called Duck Butt. And it was essentially just a book about animal tushies.
Okay.
It ended up being called Chicken Cheeks because Barnes & Noble said they didn't want to stock a book called Duck Butt. I don't know why.
Okay.
And I wrote the text, which was maybe 40 words.
Right.
45 words, 50 words.
Took you about 90 minutes?
Took me a little longer because eventually I had to come up with the term duck-billed platypus gluteus maximus.
Oh.
And once I had that, I thought, I've got a book here.
I'm not going to disagree with you. It's been a while since I've read any children's literature.
And then I through a friend secured a book agent who thought it was funny, and from there got a publisher who I'm with to this day.
Yeah, but your first children's book was published in 2009.
Is that right?
That is right. But your My Custom Van was 2008. So
Okay.
I would have assumed you would have gone to the publisher of your book for grown-ups. But you went a different route?
Well, I think no. I don't know why I ended up at the same publisher. It's all Simon & Schuster.
Understood.
Different divisions of.
Well, they're a big company.
They are.
Okay. So that makes sense to me. Thank you for clearing that matter up.
Yeah, but
I'm sure
but I arrived at those deals in two very different ways.
Right. So you, like I said, you have 7 children's books. The most recent one that was published was First Book of Trump.
That's right.
And there was one that was unpublished that expressly discourages kids from eating their vegetables.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that book?
Well, it was the first book in rhyme that I wrote. And I was told by my children's book editor, don't write things in rhyme, because although everybody thinks of children's books as rhyming books do not perform very well.
Oh.
They do not sell.
I see.
With, certainly a Seussian exception. And so I wrote this book actively discouraging children from eating their vegetables. My editor said, no, thank you. And that was the end of that.
I see. And so you've not tried to take out the rhymes. You think that was what was holding it back?
No, I don't know. I just thought, this is very funny. I really like this as it is. And if he doesn't want it, fuck him.
Okay. Good for you.
But I mean, it's not the only book of mine that he's rejected.
There have been others.
Oh, yeah.
All children's books?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't spend a ton of time writing children's books. So if they say no thank you, it's not like I've invested years of my life into it.
No, in fact, by your own admission in previous interviews, you've claimed that if you spend more than 90 minutes
That's right.
from start to finish, 90 minutes of time total from start to finish, you feel like you've done something wrong.
That's right. Which isn't entirely true.
Right.
Mostly true.
You said, if I may, you said you almost felt guilty because the illustrators,
Oh, they spend so much time.
they spend
Months.
weeks, months, working on them, and by comparison,
I didn't do anything.
you felt a little guilty about that.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I just did a revision for one, and it took me 7 minutes.
Oh,
and
boy.
I turned it in, my editor's like, you nailed it. I'm like, thanks.
Well, kids, if you're out there looking for some fast money, and you got
Well, the thing is,
97 minutes.
The thing that I miscalculated is that there really is no money in children's publishing, but it's fun and it's a delight. It's a delight to do it.
That is nice.
It is really nice.
Let's see, I guess your children would have still been of children's book reading age, certainly your youngest in 09,
Yeah.
2010. And are your kids fans of your books?
No.
No, because everything you do is Lynn,
Yeah.
obviously.
And that's as it should be.
Okay, good. I'm so glad that we got to the bottom of that. Jamie, any questions or fun stuff from the chat, peoples?
It's I don't know if you're watching the current season of South Park, but it's a lot of skank hunts today, so not so much.
I appreciate the reference, and thank you. We have a lot of skank hunts in the chat room today. I'm very sorry to hear that.
But our friend Sean's there. Hi, Sean Foster.
Hello, Sean.
Our friend Sean's there.
All right, well then I'm going to indulge myself. So like I said, your last published book was about Trump. It is not a secret that you're not a fan. Based on the last conversation that you and I had about him prior to Election Day, would lead me to believe that as soon as production wraps on Wet Hot American Summer, you're heading up north. I guess we'll wait and see about that. But I came across on your blog 2 versions of a. You say no rhyming.
Well, so A Child's First Book of Trump is my latest children's book, although children in quotation marks because it was really more for adults than for kids.
Right.
And that is a rhyming book because I felt like if you're going to write a children's book parody, which this was, there might be an expectation that it rhymes.
I see.
And so it is a Seussian style book.
It is very much.
And then I wrote a sequel after the election, which my editor has declined to publish, so I put them on my blog. I put 2 versions of the same book on my blog.
Yes, the light version and the dark version.
That's right.
And if you would be willing to indulge me and our audience, I would love it if you would be willing to, as from the author's mouth.
Well, which do you want?
I'm going to leave that choice to you.
Well,
all right, the dark version.
Yeah, I figured you would. So I wrote this, and this was the first draft, the first version that I wrote. And I thought to myself, well, this is very good, but it might be too dark. And I sent it to my wife, and she said, this is very good, but it's too dark. So then I wrote the light version, but I'll read you the dark version.
I'm very excited about this. That is as printed. It should all be there.
It's quite long, isn't it? Well, it's double-spaced.
It's double-spaced, and there's only...
The Trump is President by Michael Ian Black. Now, you have to keep in mind that the Trump in the first book is sort of a Lorax character. He's an orange, furry thing with a swoop of blonde hair and pursed lips and tiny hands. The Trump is president.
Yes.
The votes were in, the election was done. In incredible surprise, the Trump had won. I'm the new prez, he said with a shout, though of course, he demurred, it was never in doubt. The Trump smoothed out his fur and puffed out his chest. Now the whole world knows that I am the best, the thinkingest thinker, the financialist wizard. I buried more folks than the snowiest blizzard. What had it taken to reach these new heights? Not much, some speeches, a few personal slights, but above all, he'd made an arrangement. Just give me your love, I'll provide entertainment. And entertain them he had, like a true master showman, but of course, few of them read the long bill of goods that he'd sold them. The Trump chuckled and clapped and spun like a dreidel. I'm gonna drain the whole swamp if I'm able. For each rat bureaucrat, an unfond farewell. For each stuffy old building, a Trump brand hotel. My ideas are huge, my plans are tremendous. The wall I will build will be double stupendous. Each thing that I do will be better than lastest. And if any object, I'll take a long look at their taxes. So he packed up his stuff, his gold baubles and buckles, his 6-foot-high portrait and golden brass knuckles. Then he departed his tower, his golden mane flowing, and flew south to D.C., where a cold wind was blowing. I've arrived, he announced, dropping his bags with the clerk. Now fetch me my pen, and let's get to work. Most presidents sign into law things that they favor. The Trump, instead, shaved away laws like a razor. Goodbye to the rules governing airborne pollution. Au revoir to school standards that teach evolution. As for all of the members of a certain religion, henceforth they're considered a pre-existing condition. He signed tariffs and tax breaks and immigrant bans. It all took some time due to the small size of his hands. Then he yawned the great yawn of a beast needing sleep and asked to be carried to the president's suite. 5 valets tucked the Trump into his bed, and one fed him burgers on the whitest of breads. In the morning he awoke to noise from outside. He peeked out the window and saw a vast, swelling tide. Thousands had gathered to express their dismay at what the Trump had done on the previous day. A slow smile spread from cheek A to cheek B. All of those protesters protesting little old me. He flipped on the telly, hopping from channel to channel, his finely tuned ears acting like 2 solar panels. They're saying my name, he whispered time after time. He listened enraptured to those pundits opine. Those same stuffed shirts who'd laughed at him once, who'd called him a clown, a buffoon, and a dunce. Yet now they hung on the Trump's every word. He'd exposed those frauds for what they were, absurd. And just then, He felt his heart swell with inflation, not from any great love for duty or nation, but because they all of them, now knew his name. He'd achieved the Trump's dream of international fame. I'm famous, he breathed, and nothing else matters. Then one stony tear fell from his eye to the floor and shattered. The moment divine, he enjoyed its enthrall. He enjoyed it for 29 seconds in all. After that, in a blink, he was seized with the fear. He realized aghast he'd be out in 4 years. Oh no, he wailed, could this end so soon? Just 4 more years in that big oval room? Just 4 scant orbits of Earth around sun? Then he'd be right back to where he'd begun. A nothing, a nobody, a footnote, a loser. Well, not him, not the Trump, not this battle cruiser. No, he'd stick around for another full term. He'd make all of his doubters wriggle and squirm. He rushed down the hall past all of the paintings. The past prezzies upon them had a single mass fainting, for they knew him, that orange interloper, that liar, con artist, and serial groper. But they were all gone, just ghosts from the past. The Trump was in charge, and he'd make it last. He lassoed his best tie and affixed his best smile, then announced to the press, I'll be here for a while. The Trump made it this far through unnatural selection. Only you and your friends can stop Trump's re-election. Unpublishable.
but hardly unreadable. That was magnificent, and I cannot thank you so much for indulging me. I feel like you have earned a Diet Coke.
Yeah, I'll take one.
Dr. Ken, thank you very much, sir.
Now, when you hear that,
you gotta love that when you ask for Diet Coke, like 3 people shot up.
Sure.
Like,
they don't want to get touched. They want to get close to the star. I get it.
That's how much power you have.
Now, when you hear that,
yes,
what is your feeling? Is it? Are you feeling entertained in any way? Are you feeling grossed out? What are you thinking when you hear that?
As an adult hearing that, I am both entertained and horrified because while the tone is certainly that of a humorous children's book, much of it is unfortunately accurate.
Right.
So it is terrible.
It's horrifying.
It is horrifying.
And you wouldn't want to pick that up in a bookstore. You'd be like, oh God, no, I don't want this in my home.
Well, I don't know about that because the way and this is an unpopular view, and I apologize in advance, Jamie, but the way I feel about most children's entertainment is
it's too light.
It's too light, and so when people will say things like, oh, you should see the Pixar movies, they're great for adults too, right. I think, well, they were not written for me. They were written for a kid, and then they threw in jokes that the grown-ups in the theaters
You like more of a Roald Dahl, a darker vision of the world for children.
I guess so.
I do too, I think.
Yeah, and so to that end, that is something that I would not mind reading to a child because the child would appreciate it as thinking of the Trump as, like you said, the Lorax, this dark, evil thing, and then I would read it laughing, going, this is reality that I live in now.
But come on, Muslims as a pre-existing condition.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant.
That is brilliant.
Brilliant.
I'm not going to. There is a reason I printed out 2 versions of that and had the balls to ask you to read it, and it's not because I chuckled last night. It's because that is brilliant. That's great. And I'm beyond honored and flattered that you would give us an author's
first time reading it out loud.
Reading.
Probably the last time. Well, there'll be no opportunity to.
Right. Well, maybe not. Maybe you'll go on a national tour of reading
unpublishable books.
Unpublishable books. I bet you there has got to be a version of that exists. I mean, they used to have the unaired pilots screenings in LA and New York. Mm-hmm. So unpublished book readings.
Or like half of the country would be interested in the book.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got that.
Yeah. If not a lot more. So I want to ask you about the Late Late Show. Mm-hmm. So in 2004, they went through a transition after Craig Kilborn left the show, but before they found a new host, which would ultimately be Craig Ferguson, they had kind of tryouts of sorts of a bunch of different comedians and actors and entertainers, and you were one of them who had, I think it was 1 show to start, and then they brought you and 3 other finalists back for an entire week of guest hosting. Mm-hmm. And I watched all of those shows, as I am a big student and fan of late night, And our friendship and my adoration for you aside, I thought you were magnificent.
Thank you.
And you would have been a tremendous late night host. But I have never asked you and always wondered, is that the kind of job that you might want to have for years and years and years on end?
Well, at the time, I thought yes, but I also was very conflicted because we had just shot the pilot of Stella. And then I got the call to do this. And so had I gotten the job, it would have meant letting down my two best friends.
Right.
So it was a very, very difficult moment because I didn't feel like I could say no to that opportunity, but nor could I couldn't feel good about it either.
Right.
I couldn't enjoy that moment. And so I think that ambivalence ultimately may have cost me the job. I mean, it really came down to Ferguson and me in the end. And after my final show on a Friday night, I had this idea that we would do a blood drive on the show. And it went very well, and it was funny, and I felt like it was the kind of thing that I would like to do, you know, a kind of innovative, fun show where you're donating blood as you're interviewing Joe Mantegna. It was good.
Former guest.
A former guest. And afterwards, I was basically told, you got the job. And in that moment, I really, the image that came to mind immediately was, I just bought a house I can't afford. Like, it's going to consume me, and it's going to require uprooting my life and moving my family out here. And I was up for it, but I understood the weight of it. And then the following Monday, when it turned out I hadn't gotten the job, I was both devastated and relieved.
Wow. I'm so glad I asked, and thank you for enlightening me. That does sound like quite the weight. Because
it would have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, since then, that whole arena has changed. So I no longer feel like that's something I would want to do in that form.
Right.
The form in which it currently exists, to me, is uninteresting.
Yeah, it is. There is certainly, and this has come up in conversation. I don't know if it's come up on camera, Jamie, but we've all had conversations about the current shape of late night and what passes for comedy bits and, you know, ways to interact with the guests.
Every time I get in this conversation, I get hit back with, but they have to create viral content, and that's the argument.
Right. And that's not interesting to me.
No, I agree.
The idea of making a show on television to create 3 minutes of goofiness to put on the internet, not interested.
No.
And I know I always bring this up as an example, but like my heart like sank into my stomach when it's like Diane Keaton like had her, and Jimmy Fallon had like her arms tied behind her back and like was forced to eat a bowl of pasta. I'm like, what is this? It's Diane Keaton.
Yeah, I don't find that stuff compelling. I don't find it funny. I don't find it charming. And that's not a slight against Jimmy,
who I enjoy.
Yeah, no.
Like
it's just
I like
not my. It's just not my sensibility. It's not my style, and I wouldn't be good at that.
Well, then a part of me is sad that things did not work out a different way, because I would have been very interested to have seen a 2004 version of what you would have done.
Well, you know, the thing is, like Ferguson, who I think ended up doing a great job with that show. You know, these things always are reactionary. So they were reacting to Kilborn.
Right.
And Ferguson was 180 degrees from Kilborn. And I really wasn't. You know, my show would have been much different than Craig Kilborn's, but I wouldn't, mine would have been closer to a
Carson Daly.
An earlier, you know, like an early iteration of Letterman, like that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know that it would be quite so deconstructive, but it would have been, you know, it would have played with the form a lot more. I shouldn't even say that because Ferguson played with the form a lot.
Sure.
But it just would have been different, and they went in that direction, and great. He was great.
Okay. Well, I've been authorized by the people over at CISO to offer you a late night gig there.
Okay.
I've not been authorized in any way.
I have a late night gig at CISO. I have a show called Debate Wars on CISO.
You do have a show called Debate Wars at CISO. I think that's why that jumped out in my brain as a place to go to.
Right.
Is that show still ongoing?
Well, it's airing on CISO because it's on the internet.
Right.
But whether or not we're going to do more, I don't know yet.
All right. You've done some work on the internet. You got your CISO, but I wanted to ask you about something that probably about once a month someone will ask me about, and I don't think any of us have ever talked about it really publicly. A thing called the sad conversation, which, as of last night, still only has just a couple thousand views total, but. If I could describe what the sad conversation was, it was a YouTube channel started by Josh Molina and you, and it was a series of YouTube videos that were just profile shots of you guys talking to one another and more or less grousing about where your lives were at that given moment, and the minutia, and then it started branching out with other actors and people from the creative community chiming in and adding their own sad stuff. And what started as more or less two guys taking digs at each other then spiraled out into this small community of artists griping about why we all hate ourselves.
That's right.
And it wound up being, if memory serves, Martha Plimpton was also on there, Steve Agee,
Steven Weber,
Phil Lamar,
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, I was saving him for last. Yeah, Lin, pre-Hamilton Lin, but post-In the Heights Lin.
Yes, and incidentally was never unhappy.
And
you can see why.
That's exactly right. He had no business being on the sad conversation. But if one were to go back now and try to figure out what the sad conversation was and follow it from start to finish, you would literally have to watch hundreds and hundreds of 3 to 8 minute videos that would take you days, if not weeks.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine there's any sort of narrative or flow to them.
Well, there's a narrative in the sense that people tend to be responding to what they've just seen.
Sure. But in terms of overall narratives, no. It was really just what was going on in our lives, what was going on. I remember at one point there was an argument about, or not an argument, but a sort of discussion about unions and SAG and if the unions should merge. And boy, those were some very strange videos. And the strangest thing about them is they are all still there.
I'm sure they are.
And
I've never looked.
Even the most popular ones only have 7,000-8,000 views.
Sure.
Which by YouTube standards is nothing. So I thought I would be happy to discuss it with you right now. And it's okay, we're moving on from the discussion. But in the hopes that maybe someone will go and find them, because they are all still there.
Well, the channel is called Sad Conversation, so you can go watch it.
Yeah, go watch it. And I would be very curious if anyone in the mental health community could take a look at those videos and let us know who among us should be in more intensive therapy. I would be very grateful for a heads up. Well,
it was a kind of experiment. It was almost an art piece more than anything else.
Jane Weedland was
she was
from the Go-Go's.
It was people talking about the difficulties of their lives as artists. But what I thought was interesting about it, and ultimately why I had to stop doing it, was it was specifically people who had some success. It was specifically people who I sort of consider middle class actors, people who were working and were doing okay, but still struggled and still worried and still had all the fears that everybody has. So it wasn't like Rent or something where it was starving artists,
Right.
you know, with AIDS trying to like just survive to the next day. It was people who were doing okay, talking about their lives. But it was like it started out
Right.
as incredibly self-indulgent. And so I just felt eventually within a couple months, it only lasted that long, like I couldn't keep doing this. It was just killing me to keep doing it.
Yes.
So I had to step away. And I think everybody sort of felt the same way and stepped away simultaneously.
We absolutely
But I think the point was valid. The larger point was we as everybody has their struggles, and it just happened to be this community who I felt like I could talk to, and Josh felt like he could talk to, and it was just a way of kind of saying what you think of as this industry, this kind of glamorous industry, is just people trying to get by day by day.
Right.
And there might be something valuable in seeing that. And maybe there is and maybe there isn't, I don't know. But I just came to feel like if there is, it's going to have to be somebody else who's doing this, because I can't, because it's just eating me alive.
Yes, and me. And I remember feeling that there was almost a pressure to keep posting and keep coming up with things.
Absolutely.
And there were some days where, and I don't want to use the word depression, but there were some days where the sadness, when I just thought, I'm not going to post a video of me just looking into the camera and saying nothing, which a few people did. But there were days when that's the best I could have come up with.
I mean, it was an art project, and the success or failure of it can be judged in those terms.
Absolutely. I guess I am glad that it does live on untouched.
Sure.
And this was the spring through summer of 2011, for those who want to know what we're talking about. And I encourage anyone who's curious to just click on a couple of random sad conversation videos, and you will have very little idea what the hell you're watching. But we leave them out there for the people.
For the people.
For the people. Because we're givers.
We are nothing if not givers.
That is true. There is another project I am dying to ask you about, and I've never asked you about it in our personal life, because let's be honest, we really don't see that much of each other, what with you living in Connecticut.
We wouldn't see that much of each other if I lived in LA.
That's a cold, hard truth, ladies and gentlemen. Like Liam Black pulls no punches.
But not because of you, I just don't see people.
That's true.
I tend to stay home.
You do see, you are, by your own admission, a very boring person.
A homebody.
A homebody. You were very happy at home. You don't enjoy going out or doing anything that requires attention.
Well, this is my social life.
This is.
Like just going out and doing the work. Work.
I know this feels like work. The 2006 feature film, Wedding Days. And that is Days with a Z. I caught this film years ago on Netflix, and I enjoyed it. And I was surprised when I saw your name come up in the credits as both written and directed by. And I had no idea that you had written and directed an entire feature.
I have.
And I'm very curious to know about how that came about.
Well, it was just like stand-up. It was like, I sort of feel like I want to give this a try. Let me see if I can do this. And as it turns out, not very well. Not very well.
Well, I think you're being harsh on yourself.
It was very difficult to get it made, like all movies are difficult to get made. It was very difficult for me personally as a director to do. I don't think I was very good at it. And it never made it to the theater, so it ended up being a straight to DVD thingamajiggy, and you can watch it.
All right, that's a glowing review from the writer-director himself. But okay, then if you are not happy with the finished product, then were you at least happy with what you learned?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I can't even really say I'm not happy with the finished product because I haven't seen it essentially since I finished it.
Oh.
And at that time, I was so close to it that I couldn't see the forest through the trees.
Of course.
And I will probably never watch it again. But the fact that nothing happened with it leads me to believe it's probably not very good. And my overall memories of it are not very good.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, that's all right.
But it's my understanding it is still on Amazon or Netflix.
Is it?
I mean, I did not check to see, but I think it's got very good actors in it, and
does.
there are absolutely some very funny moments.
Yes, and any fault in it is not due to the acting, and the actors are all great in it.
You got your Jason Biggs.
Your Isla Fisher, your Ed Herman, your Margot Martindale, your Eben Moss Backrack.
Who's currently on Girls.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Among others.
Yes. Well, I hope people are curious and checking it out, and I imagine that they will, because the people who've tuned in today and who will download this are no doubt already fans of yours.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm telling you.
Okay, great.
They are fans of yours. I would have watched this one if I weren't hosting it.
Right.
I would have watched.
Will you go back and watch?
No, I don't typically go back and watch these because I lived them.
Right.
So the memories are...
You know what happened.
I know what happened. Yeah. I know what I'm going to ask next before the audience does.
Right.
So that's kind of taken away from me.
Right.
I have occasionally re-listened to ones for research purposes, for guests we've had on more than once. And what always makes me smile is when I'm re-listening to one that's maybe several years old, and then something is said in conversation, and I don't remember what comes next, but as I'm listening, I think, oh boy, this would be a funny thing to say next.
And then you say it.
And then I hear my voice say it, and then I think, well, at least I haven't changed.
Right.
And that's good to know, so that when someone, if someone ever tries to accuse me of, you've changed, I can say, I know for a fact I haven't.
Right, and I have proof.
The archives exist. And I can absolutely prove to you that I am the same dumbass knucklehead I was back in 2013.
To pick a year.
To pick a year at random. To pick a year at random. But podcasts. Let's close out with podcasts.
Okay.
You have, to my knowledge, you've had 3 podcasts. One that I don't believe has gone on, has published a new dropped, uploaded a new one since 2014. Topics with you and Michael Showalter. You are a collaborator here throughout many times in your career. But then you had 100 episodes of Mike and Tom Eat Snacks.
Right. This is me and Tom Cavanaugh, star of Ed.
Right.
Each episode picking a snack, eating a snack, rating a snack, the per system, and it's exactly what it sounds like.
And I listened to the Oreos.
Oh, you listened to the 100th episode?
I did, and it was quite enjoyable as someone who enjoys snacks himself.
Right.
And so if you are a snack fan, I highly recommend you check out
Mike and Tom Eat Snacks.
Mike and Tom Eat Snacks. That is what it's called. MTES for sure. Or MA.
There you go, Mates.
Mates, right.
That's by design.
Well done.
Thanks. Because we're also friends.
You are indeed also friends. Isn't that nice when you pick up an actual friend from a production you've worked on?
Yes, it is very nice.
It is a rarity.
It is a rarity.
Yeah.
Although I'm friendly with most people that I work with, and then you'll go apart and you'll see them again at some point, and that's always great.
Sure.
But somebody that you hang out with, that's rare.
That is the rarity. And then your current running podcast, How to Be Amazing, which I led the show with how you prepare on that. But in earnestness, now I'm going to ask you, what drove you to pursue that podcast and that topic?
The same thing that drove me to want to pursue a late night talk show, which is enjoying conversating with people, and specifically when I can be in your position, which is questioning, not answering.
Right.
But I wanted to do it in a way that was focused, and the focus that I chose was process, how and why people do what they do.
Right.
And I wanted to speak to people from a range of professions.
Right, you don't do just actors and
No,
artists.
in fact, I try to stay away from, in particular, actors, because I, as an interviewer, don't find the subject that interesting. Not because actors aren't interesting, but because
you're not learning anything new.
Exactly. I know too much about it. So we tend to have on a lot of writers, but writers on science, writers on religion. We've had athletes, we've had mathematicians and physicists. I'm about to do Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Ooh.
Lin-Manuel was on. We had Nate Silver, the statistician. Like, we've had great people. And for me, it's an opportunity to talk to people I wouldn't normally have an opportunity to talk to, and talk to them about the things that they are interested in. And that, to me, is fascinating.
That's great. And where can people catch that podcast?
On iTunes.
On iTunes and I SoundCloud, maybe?
Sure.
Okay.
You just Google How to Be Amazing, you'll find it.
Isn't it nice that if people Google How to Be Amazing, your name is one of the very first results?
I suppose that's right. I hadn't thought of it in those terms. Well, I don't bill myself as amazing on the show. I'm just the humble interlocutor.
You do bill yourself as very famous, though.
Yes. Well, that I am.
There's no question about that. I promised we would have you out of here as close to 2 as we could get, and it is 2:01.
Great.
On the nose. Jamie, do we have anything from anyone? Do you have any questions for Michael Ian Black while we've got him sitting here?
We actually did. I want to give the person credit, but I think the question was something along the lines of, what project did you have the most fun doing?
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? I don't know.
I'm going to go with Ed because we got to work together. Great. I'm going to take that as his answer.
Do you want to hear a fun Ed story? It involves KP. He originally was offered the role, but he did not want to live in. He'd have to move to New York City, and he didn't want to do it.
He was originally offered the role of Ed?
Yes, I know, which is odd, right? Because I feel like he would be like too old for it.
He would have been too old.
Yeah, I agree.
This was 2000, right after '99, so this is right after Whole 9 Yards.
Yes.
It would.
I don't know. This is a story he tells me.
Yeah, you're right, and I've heard him tell that story.
It's certainly possible.
Yeah, I guess anything's possible.
Because he met with, because it's a worldwide pants production, so he met with Letterman. So yeah.
If only he were here right now.
I don't know. That's all I got for you guys.
It just would have been a very different show. I'm sure it would have been good, but it just would have been very different.
Well, thank you for the chat room on that one. No, I'm just teasing. We've covered so much stuff, and I hope most of it, or at least some of it, wasn't stuff that you've covered on previous occasions.
I've talked about pretty much all of it before.
Really? People have asked you about sad
No,
conversation?
not about that.
All right. Okay, good. Well, now that it's all in one convenient place, though, for people to listen to you.
Yes, you have the entire overview of my career now.
I'm so excited about that. It's all I've ever really wanted.
But see, this is what like, as an interviewer, I think to myself, you can just go on IMDb.
Yeah, but there were some stories and things that you told. Plus, on IMDb does not have you reading any of your children's books that are not suitable for publishing.
Actually, that's not true. I think there is on IMDb. Well, not suitable for publishing, yes.
Yeah, but I mean that's what this show is.
Well, yes, and I just have to. Now, this is my own self-consciousness, thinking to myself, well, nobody cares, but I have to trust that somebody does, and that somebody, I guess, is you.
Even if it's just me, wasn't it worth it? No, I know it wasn't.
I'm fighting the 405, getting down here and all that. Was it worth it? I don't know. Worth it for who? I mean, I already knew all of it.
You did already know all of that. There were questions in there that I did not know the answers to.
So worth it for you,
It was totally worth it for me. I feel great about this. Now, I know I threatened that we could not let you leave without the Larry King game.
Right.
So I hope that over the last 90 minutes or so you have thought of...
I've been thinking of nothing else.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, then, whenever you are ready, that is your camera right there.
And what do I do?
And you're going to give me a bad Larry King impression.
All right.
You're going to give me that TMI moment of Larry just having a weird, crazy thought. And then you're going to throw to the phones. And if the city name that you throw to happens to be funny sounding, it's not going to hurt.
Okay. Hi, this is Larry King. Is that, and then what?
A TMI moment?
Oh. Smooth peanut butter? No thanks, I'll take the chunky. That's my 2 cents, Roanoke, Virginia. You're on the air.
And that is how you play the Larry King game. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You're welcome, Sam.
Curmudgeon.
Lovely to see you.
This was a treat for me. Please sit there for about 60 seconds while I wrap things up.
Okay.
Can I have 60 seconds
to
to wrap up? Okay, great. Guys, that was my long-awaited interview with Michael Ian Black. He'll be back next week for part 2 of the 7-part series where we discuss the ins and outs of his life and times. I cannot thank everyone in the room enough. From the bottom of my heart, I could not possibly do this without them. So in no particular order, thank you to Jason McIntyre, to Brian McCauley, to Brad Register, Samantha Ward, Dr. Kenny Chen, and of course, Jamie Foxx. And sitting in, wandering around somewhere, also Jaden Fox. There she is. Thank you so much, guys, for helping me put the show together. And of course, thank you to the godfather and namesake of this very show, one Kevin Pollak. Please come back soon. Thanks to the gang at the West Side Theater for letting us do the show here. And I guess until next time, fuck off.